Hey gang, we're back live on lockdown and catching up with our next guest. It's been a great story watching this rider go into the full national championship. Years gone by, racing for a couple of the big squads. Then he disappeared off the radar. He's back with a bang. Welcome, Wynand Delport.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me on the show. Kind of miss you guys.
We miss you guys as well. It's not the same, man. We should be on a start line doing this at the moment. You know, it's not the one, but we love catching up with all of our buddies out there in lockdown land. What's it been like for you? Tell me, you've got a 12K track in your back garden as well.
I wish. Obviously, I'm not as fortunate to be staying on a farm and have a track. So I'm making do with what we got. You know, we trying to keep busy, active. Not going to lie to you, I have had some sleep-in mornings where the training hasn't been great. But I think it's also a time that we can take to rest a bit. You know, I had a massive preseason training leading up to it. And maybe this is like a little blessing in disguise, if we can call it that, just to get the body to rest a bit and then take it flat speed from like next week again.
Yeah, we're going to need that rest as well, because I think the second half of this year, everyone is going to be chasing it down. It's going to be one of those mini championships. I mean, you and I have been around the sport long enough that we've seen some weird stuff happen, where sometimes the series has been called a sprint series, and there's some urgency. And if we keep going the way we go, there might be that throwaway situation that gets thrown away itself, and then it means every round of 6 has to count.
That's true, Matt. You know, I was actually thinking about it yesterday. You know, obviously no one knows what's going to happen. Everything's uncertain at the moment. But should there be no throwaways or you know, obviously the rounds have been cut. We've lost 2 rounds already. Everything's going to count. You know, bike maintenance needs to be spot on. And obviously staying healthy. You know, missing a round now for the rest of the year, as soon as we get going again, it could prove fatal with the current point situation. You know, I think I'm tied with Dart at the moment for 3rd place. So it's going to be a sprint one. It's going to be difficult, but we'll hang in there. We'll do it.
Before we start talking about this year, let's go a little bit back in time. It's been one of the cool things about live in lockdown, going and you know, getting the history books out and seeing where people came from. And it's actually kind of like woken us up to the fact that we need to, you know, introduce the fans and the supporters of the sport to the dudes behind the helmets a little bit more. You know, just a race number and a pair of goggles isn't enough right now. So let's go back to back in the Yamaha days, brother. You know, where it kind of all began for you. It was I know you did some years on Suzuki as well, but the Yamaha days were where, like, the last time I saw you before you vanished off the map for a little while there.
Yeah, yes, Matt. The Suzuki days was good. I mean, I learned a lot from racing with the Ramco Cell C team. Harry Grobler got me involved with that, and you know, unfortunately, I had plenty of crashes back then. You know, just trying too hard to go fast, and that kind of didn't work out for me. So after that, I moved on to the Yamaha for Schimmels. You know, Bram and Andre and Zach from Schimmels, you know, they took me under their wings, and having teammates like Grey Dick, I think Jade was still there, Jade Goodside at the time, you know, racing with those guys and prepping bikes with them. It was massive, you know, for this youngster to be there with them and rubbing shoulders. Everything just clicked, you know. The guys were good and the bikes were brilliant, you know, so I really gelled with that bike. And I think it was towards 27. I was still on a 125. I was actually dicing it out with Wayne Farmer, who was on a gas at that time, also in the 125 class. So I think I missed the national championship with a couple of points at the end of the season, and then, you know, I decided to move up into, well, back then it was a 250 class, the OR2 class, on a 250 smoker. And I think it's like I built that bike. You know, we just gelled. I gelled very well with that bike, and from the first season on that 250 Yamaha two-stroker. I was happy with it, and started winning races or winning classes, and got a national championship for the Schimmel's team that season. And then 09, I was still on the 252 stroker. It was a good year, everything just gelled. And so yeah, that was the Yamaha days, the good bikes, and really enjoyed those times.
Those were kind of early days for me as a commentator as well. I probably mispronounced your name, something terrible back then, Wynand or something like that, But then you just vanished off the radar there. And I've always said to people, obviously life took over, work, family, things like that. And it's great that you went down that road, but it was even better a few years ago when you turned up full privateer on your own Yamaha smoker when the GXECs basically just came back. And it was cool to see you swing a leg there. And you had been missing in action for quite a few years by that point as well.
Yeah, Matt, what actually happened is after the Yamaha days, I got called up with the BMW squad. I don't know if you remember the G450X that we raced for the 2010 season. And
yeah, they're about as heavy as a boat anchor, dude.
Brilliant bikes. So but BMW stopped production on that bike, so my program obviously went a bit down the drain, and in 2011 I had nowhere to go. And at that time I had a call from Russell Campbell, who was putting up a team with Greg Blackwell from Cargo Logistics, and they were running the Cargo team, and that was in the 2011 season. And I started the season, but there was just something wrong at that time. There was just, the speed wasn't there. The commitment was there, but like everyone around me was going faster and faster, and, hanging it out there, and I just couldn't do it. And then I actually had a couple of tests done, and what actually happened was my eyesight has deteriorated to a point where my sight was very, very bad. And it was like riding in the dust the whole time, but there's no dust. So at that time, I just couldn't have any operations done to have it fixed, because I was too young. It would have meant that 10 years from there, I would have had to do the operation again, and then chances of it being successful would not be great. So yeah, I had to throw in the boot, let it be. And at that time, I got married to my wife, my love of my life, and in 2011, and then the following year my boy was born. Obviously bikes just kind of took a back seat. I managed to have the operation done later, I think it was 2015, where they could fix it, and then I was always thinking maybe we can go again. I definitely know that I would be committed in doing it, but you always doubt yourself, and knowing, will the speed still be there? So it was a tough one. I tried some other forms of motorsport, some superbikes riding, and that was a
superbikes is perfectly safe.
It's all a flash in any way, when you're going like 250 k's an hour down the back straight. But yeah, nevertheless scary. But I never got the same thrill from the superbikes that I did from the off-roads. I always left the track feeling I wanted more. So yeah, that's and then I think it was 2016 when
it was the first year. Yeah, it was the first year of GXECs. So that was when you turned up with a absolutely Wayne Farmer polished, shining looking two-stroker, and you lined up on the OR2 gate.
Correct, yeah. So I obviously went back to my roots. I, as a privateer, you had to look at maintenance and stuff like that. So a two-stroke was just the way to go. And I ran that bike as hard as I could for a couple of races, and it went well. I was happy with that, and it felt like home, when we were at the track and when we were racing again. And being with the racing community, and obviously by then my son has grown a bit, and getting him involved into seeing what it's all about. And yeah, so that was the start of the new beginning, if we can call it that.
Yeah, and then it was well, pretty much straight after that. Again, always with that link with Harry Krobler, and he was hooked up at the time, I think, with the Trax KTM guys, and he's always been in your corner, and obviously steered you across to the 350 with Trax, and that's where we started to see the old Wynand come out, because you had to be on a 350 four-stroke on that gate. And yeah, anyone who's tried to line up with a two-stroker has unfortunately only got so far. So you had to make that jump.
Yeah, unfortunately, you mentioned Harry. I've known Harry all my life, almost, since I've been riding. He was actually the first guy that I've spoken to when I started riding, and he kind of showed me the ropes and what to do, because none of my family members ever raced, so we were going into it completely blind. But yeah, after the two-stroke, I was really trying hard. I knew the speed was there for myself and my ability, but the machinery was just not really. Technology has moved on, and the 350s are plenty fast. So I had to make the call and jump off this two-stroker, and then I met up with the guys at Trax, Rian, and all the guys from the workshop and that, and they welcomed me with open arms. I met them on the Wednesday, and I think we were going on to the first national of 2018 on the Saturday. So it happened so fast. And I was happy for that. I was happy with the bike, and that was a good place to be, to start it off really competitive, really to see bumping shoulders and elbows at the races with the faster guys.
Did you find on that gate, and it's maybe something that's only happened in the last 2 or 3 years, but it is a relatively young gate, and I mean no disrespect, because I'm an old bugger myself, but you were one of the old dudes on that gate. So you probably knew that you were on that gate not for long before you moved up to the 450s.
No, for sure. What happened is, obviously, I did the first, I think it was the first 2 rounds of the GXEC series on the two-stroke. So I had a couple of points in the bag there in that class. So to jump up to a new class and lose those points, I wasn't happy with that. So that's why I continued to stay in the Award 2 class. But I would call it lukewarm 30s was the age, and definitely one of the older guys in the team. But I knew the bigger picture would be to be racing in the OR1 class and bang it out there with the guys. And it scares me to think what the next step would be after the OR1 class. But that's life, as long as I can hang it and be safe and capable of my ability, then I'm definitely gonna be racing as competitive as I can.
So that takes us up to where we are now, because last year was your last year on the Trax KTM team. Again, with Harry, though, you guys basically started to develop as more behind-the-scenes guys, and you put together that new initiative. We were obviously involved with that as well, putting together a team video for you. But that showed a different element of Wynand there, where you were taking over more of a mentor and managerial role at the CIT Husky Squad.
Yes, Matt. Since the beginning, there was always this. It started out as a joke for many years. We were thinking, the ideal team would be for us to do something together. And I think it was the end of last year. We were having a braai, and we had the same
how many stories start like that? Hey, we were having a braai. We were having a dog
with a brandy, and and he looked at me, and Harry looked at me, and we were joking about it, and I could see the look in his face was completely different. He was actually serious about this, and it got me thinking. And like a couple of days after that, I found him. I said, "Listen, let's do it. I know we can do it." And that's how this was born. The team was born. So, and I think also in a way it was time for me to maybe give back a bit to the sport with regards to getting younger guys involved and with a more professional setup. That's what that guys did with me when I was younger and starting out. The passion was there, and I could see from the guys that are on the team now, they're a bunch of youngsters, but they're hungry and they're passionate about it. And for me to show them this I've done this, and this hurts. If you do crash, it does hurt, but we do get up and we carry on. And in that same way, I try and feed off their positivity and their willingness to fight, so it keeps me strong as well. So it's a win-win situation.
And when you guys rolled into the start line, and bear in mind, even though we're all sat here on lockdown, this was the earliest start to a regional and national championship that I've ever experienced. I think it was the 1st of February we went racing at GXEC round number 1. So you probably hadn't had much time on your bike by then. The team hadn't probably quite gelled, but hell, it was a good day.
No, for sure. When we got the whole team together, it moved, it gelled very well, and it moved fast from there. Some of our riders are not in Gauteng. John's all the way in Klerksdorp, if I'm right. So, it's a bit of a traveling issue, but and he's still too young. He can't travel. He doesn't have license. His dad has to drive him up and down. But we made it work, and the season started early. But by then, luckily, with the drive that we have as, I would say, competitors, being always competitive, we wanted to go out and have it done. And there's no tomorrow. Let's do it now. Something's worth doing. It's worth overdoing. So we just hanged with that. Sorry. So we just hanged with that, and we then try and run with that. Yeah.
So let's take you on your personal journey then. GXCC round number 1, one of the more technical layouts of the GXCCs, but more importantly, the OR1 gate this year. My goodness. I mean, everyone who's anyone plus that is on that gate this year. So you had your work cut out. Talk us through the start line and obviously how the race went for you.
Yeah, the start, I mean, I think that's one thing I got dialed in for this season is the start. I was never a quick starter. That's why when the nationals ran time trials, I was very rarely in the top 10 because it was just I was never comfortable in the first 50Ks. But I realized that the starts is probably 70% of the whole race. If you've got a good start and you're running with the fast boys, it does make life easier. So so once we got that underway, and obviously, like I mentioned earlier, I had a pretty gnarly preseason to get this up and running, get strong, and make sure that I'm fit and healthy to compete with these guys. I mean, with Dart and Pentecost, he's traveling all the way from Natal to come and do our races, and Miller is back. Huge respects for these guys, but I'm definitely there to fight with them. There's no doubt about that.
Were you surprised to see such a big gate? And I mean, Pentecost and Miller were huge surprise packages, but obviously JC's back at almost full fitness. Dart's the defending champion. Ruan Smith can be there. He's proven that. And of course, Hein van Niekerk running the big Hayabusa. He's always going to find some kind of extra horsepower out of whatever he's on as well. So it's a very, very rarefied atmosphere. Were you surprised to be able to run as high as you were so early on this year?
Matt, this might sound a bit witty, but no. And the reason for that is because you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in what your ability is, and I know for a fact that I can run with him. I believe that, and that's probably half the race right there. That's what I try and tell the younger guys in the team. You know, if you're content with being okay and kind of giving it what you got, then it might not be what it's all about. You know, being competitive is knowing that you can do it. So I do know that from experience, that's I can run with these guys. And then obviously on the other half of it, you need to think about it and you need to stay healthy. Obviously, I've had quite some bad injuries over the last couple of seasons, with some rocks thrown at me and all that. But I definitely believe that I can run with them and definitely bang handlebars.
Yeah, tell me about that injury, because you were sending me some pictures there about getting a black eye, and you almost lost your eye with a big rock coming through the goggles. What was the story there?
Yes, that was at the last national in 2018, where it was a combined national and GXEC event, and it was Taki and JJ were running for, and Gareth Cole, actually national series, they were running for the championship, and I was kind of in between whoever finished before who would win the championship. So I think Taki bargained on that. And I think it was a third lap that we did. I pulled up onto the back of a back mark, and it's not his fault because he never knew I was there. But it was a rocky patch, and it was a bit of uphill, and the bikes were spinning. And next moment, I was on the ground, and I couldn't see where my bike is. And I was like kind of trying to go on sound where my bike is, but found it in the bushes. Yeah, so I assume I got like a half a brick in the face, and it hit me solidly on the nose and on the eye.
Yeah.
And at that time, obviously with my whole eye sight situation that I had in the past, you kind of get backflashes of what's going to happen next, and like my vision was gone for about a half an hour, and eventually I got my bike out the bush and got it back onto the bike and got back to the pits, but I could only see through one eye, so I could not continue with that race, and I rushed off to hospital, and luckily those X-brand goggles probably saved my eye from that incident. So luck was kind of on my part. Maybe I shouldn't have been so close to the back marker, knowing that the roost was going to be that bad. But I'm here today, and I'm healthy to race. So,
phew, what a story, Vay. Honestly, you've been through it, buddy. You've been through it. Yeah, protection has definitely come on as well. So I'm glad that obviously you got to where you are now. So then, what happened at GXEC round number 2? Obviously, you'd set your stall out. You were in a very strong position for the championship, but also that meant coming out at round number 1, everyone knew who and what they were up against. So the start for round number 2, knowing that it was going to be a high-speed track as well, and dusty out at Falkville, it was probably more important than anything to get a good gate.
Yes, definitely, Matt. Like I mentioned earlier, I mean that's a big part of the race. But at that race, I tried my best. I didn't have a great start, unfortunately. That's racing. That's just racing. You try the best you can, and it was pretty fast. I mean, our mechanic Johan van Mark, we had a discussion about running the gearing for this race because we knew it was going to be fast, and I knew that with the correct gearing we could go probably like 160 something on the 450s, and even running on those speeds at a lot of riders can go fast in a straight line. That's obvious. That's how it is. But to keep it there and to make sure you make it to the end of the race. So a safety factor was there for me, flinging it down the dirt road at 160 k's an hour, that does hurt. It costs money as well to pay the bills for the medical aid, but it wasn't a great race. I've had better races than that, but I'll take it any day. That's points on the board, and hopefully that was my one race where things just didn't quite gel. And then we'll move on from that when the season starts and kicks off again, we'll take it from there and work our way from each race to race.
I think you still banged 4th place though, didn't you? So it's not like it's a bad day at the office. It's good for a bad day, put it that way.
Exactly. Yeah. I think championships or championships are won on bad days. A lot of people say that, but when you have a bad day and this is not my day, and you are happy with that, but you're also content to make the best out of it. That's what wins. That's what wins championships. If things just not right on the day, and you confirm with that, and you just make the best that you can. I mean, there's nothing else that you can do is to make with exactly the same situation that the country, or actually the whole world, is in right now. It's not a great situation, but we're all in it together. And I think if we look at it with a glass half full, then we'll make the best of it.
Totally agree with you, brother. You've taken the words out of all of our mouths. We're living on a prayer here, to quote Bon Jovi, and just waiting to get out and not just racing, just get back to life. I mean, you've got your family, you've got your little dude who's probably more keen to get on a bike than you are at this stage. So,
yeah, no, I mean, luckily, or I'm not sure if it's a lucky thing, but with my work situation, I kind of need to come into the office, running a security company. That's like a whole baby on its own. But the kids are at home, the family is at home, and we're trying to keep them healthy and safe, like everyone else does. But I could see, like this morning, they're not happy anymore. You can only play so much cricket, and I think we're on a 5-day game right now with my boy. So, but it does get a bit too much. But it is what it is. I mean, everyone's in it, and just got to keep our chins up.
Brother, it's been fantastic talking to you. I'm blown away at your approach. I didn't realize you'd screwed your head on that tight this year, and it's definitely going to bear some fruits. I can't wait to see what you've got for the rest of the season. But like I do with all my guests, I'd like to say, use this as an opportunity to give a shout out to anyone you want to, give a high five, or whatever you need to do, and then we'll say cheers.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Matt. I mean, obviously you guys that pulled, I think, 2 rabbits out the hat here to make this happen. But I think at a time like this, family, obviously got to say thank you to them. I've got guys in my corner, family in my corner that just stuck through me, through every injury, every bone break, every win, every DNF, and every race that we line up, the family is there. Obviously, my father plays a big role in my racing. That's where it started. And my brother-in-law, we've been in business together. There's days that I feel I can't go train today because, I mean, there's stuff that needs to happen. And he says, don't worry, I got this. You need to go train. That's family. And then obviously the guys at CIT, Morne and Ian and them, they've really gone out their way to make this happen for us. And Mark Henderson from Henderson Products, Just One Helmets, Dunlop rubber that we got going. Yeah, we're happy with that. Liquid Moly makes it smooth for us with the lubrication. So yeah, I think family and friends, that's it. We really need to say thank you for, and then sponsors actually become friends if you run a relationship with them. It's never always business. They do become friends, and we appreciate all of them. Really do.
Wynand, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for giving up your time. I know you're trying to put food on the table as well as hold everything together. So thank you. We do appreciate it. And yeah, cannot wait to see you out on the line again. Thank you, Vay.
Cool.
All right. So that's our good buddy Wynand Delport wrapped up as almost our final guest at the end of week number 3 of lockdown. It's Thursday tomorrow. So we're going to get ourselves ready to wrap up our 3rd week on Live on Lockdown. And it's going to be our 3rd quaddie that we're going to be talking to at the same time. It's the man who is desperate to nail down his first ever GXEC championship. He nailed down a win in category last year. He took an overall, and he has already taken a win this season at round number 2 in the Q2s. David Stratum, the guy that can hang off a quad like no other and has brought the speed big time in 2020. joins us at 2 p.m. tomorrow, live on Lockdown. So join us as we talk to David Stratham of the 421 Development Racing Squad.